I've been thinking about Hamid Choshkun and about the whole concept of burning books, and not metaphorically, not in an abstract sense, but literally the public incineration of written words, of thoughts, of culture, of protest, of prayer. In recent months, we've seen a disturbing rise in the deliberate destruction of the Quran. In Sweden, in Denmark, in the Netherlands, yes, here, even in the UK, the case of Hamid Choshkun, who was convicted yesterday of religiously aggravated public order offence after burning the Quran outside the Turkish consulate in London, that presents an especially urgent crossroads between law, provocation, and liberty. The Quran is not simply a religious book. For over 1 billion Muslims worldwide, it is the unmediated word of God, a text so sacred that even worn copies must be disposed of respectfully, and many believers will wash ritually before touching it. It's generally placed on the top shelf of any bookshelf. To set fire to a copy of the Quran in public while shouting that Islam is a religion of terrorism and uttering other offensive statements is not the beginning of a dialogue. It's the lighting of a cultural Molotov cocktail. It deliberately humiliates believers, not ideas, and the person holding the lighter isn't asking a question, they're making a threat. To make a threat in public is a crime. And yet this act has been defended by some under the banner of freedom of speech. But what kind of speech is this exactly? Freedom of expression is a cornerstone of liberal democracy, but it was never intended to be a license for public incitement or obscenity. No one has a right to shout fire in a crowded theatre, even in America, and no one should mistake the burning of holy books for an act of civil debate. Consider the context. Choshkun stood in front of a consulate, a political flashpoint, and shouted hateful slogans about burning what billions regard as sacred. Is this truly about liberty, or is it about spectacle and hatred? This isn't a question of shielding Islam from criticism. Religious belief, like any belief, must be open to scrutiny, but burning a text is not criticism. It's arson, and it's the arson of the intellect. It's a grim echo of the 1933 book burnings in Germany, where titles by Freud, Einstein, and Heine were set alight to purify German thought. As Heinrich Heine said, where they burn books, they will end up burning people. We've seen this play out not just in Europe, but across the world. Salman Momika was charged in Sweden with burning a Quran and murdered before his trial concluded. Rasmus Paludan, a far-right agitator, sparked riots in both Sweden and Denmark. In the US, a man who burned library books on black and LGBTQ plus history did so while invoking white supremacist slogans. Across the Muslim world, images of Qurans in flames have provoked violent protests, diplomatic breakdowns, and in some cases, deadly retaliation. Authoritarian regimes use these incidents to stoke anti-Western sentiment. Russia and China, both veterans of their own book-burning traditions, have gleefully exploited these events to portray Western liberalism as a failure. We're handing them propaganda on a pyre. So what should we do? Ban all such protests? That too is dangerous. Denmark's new law against improper treatment of religious texts risks sliding into de facto blasphemy legislation. Britain hasn't banned Quran burning per se, but Choshkun's prosecution was disorderly conduct motivated by hate. The line is narrow but vital. You can criticize Islam, you can even offend. But when your actions provoke fear, incite hatred, and endanger others, the law is obliged to act. So the law is dependent, or the prosecution is dependent on the response of your audience. That seems to be a very strange law. Normally, if there's an offence, the offence is the intention of the person who is committing the act. In this particular case, the offence seems to be the response of the people who witness that act. British law doesn't defend Islam uniquely. The same would be true of burning the Torah scroll, or the Bible, of public threats against synagogues, mosques, or churches. And I think we've got it wrong completely. We must not lose sight of what's truly at stake. Book burning is not protest, it's nihilism. It doesn't elevate debate, it desecrates it. So whether it's a Quran, Mein Kampf, or Lady Chatterley's Lover, burning a book is not an act of criticism but of obliteration. And that is something that I suggest should become the subject of legal debate. It tells the world, I will not argue with you, I will not listen, I will erase you. And that, I think, is something that should matter to us, because democratic society depends on disagreement, honest, heated, sometimes even hurtful, but never annihilating. We must protect the space for reasoned dissent, while drawing a line at incendiary provocation. In Orwell's 1984, history is not rewritten in a flash of flame, but erased slowly with ink and scissors. But the fire of hatred is quicker and far more dangerous. We shouldn't be the generation that confuses liberty with license or protest with provocation. We should not be the generation that needs to relearn why totalitarians fear books and why they burn them. And let us not forget, to burn a book is to burn the bridge to understanding. I don't think we should be focused on protecting books that have a religious content. I think we should be focused on protecting books and the iconography of annihilating literature. And that should be something that I think we should be able to look to the law to defend our traditions, so that the annihilation of literature is something that takes place only with special permission.